The Pikes Peak International Hill Climb is a unique challenge in the world of motorsports. Over the 12-mile course, racers gain 5,000 feet of elevation. And along the way, they lose almost half the power out of their engines because of the thin air. Engineers use things like superchargers and turbochargers to try to make up for that, but it all seems a little bit futile compared to the EVs that have been tackling the mountain over the past few years. They have full power from bottom to top. Toyota came here last year and beat the record. They came back this year to try to do it again, but unfortunately they were stymied by bad weather. Still, they've been kind enough to bring the car out to the Pikes Peak International Raceway here, and we are going to get to drive it. We're here with Mr. Rod Milne, the king of Pikes Peak. Sir, it's an honor to meet you. Thank you so much for taking some time out. So this is your race car, and just yesterday you were climbing the hill in this guy, right?
Yeah, we were. You know, it was a thrill for me to come back here. I hadn't been here for many years, and when Toyota invited me out here to drive the electric car, I thought, wow, that's going to be a whole new Pikes Peak, and it was.
The car is a high-performance, high-power electric racing car. It was initially conceived as a rolling test bed for the powertrain development by TMG, our partners in Europe in the motorsport sector, and also to advance rapid charging and battery technology. TRD USA has taken the car, developed it with Pikes Peak specific developments, and come here to try and retain our title.
And how long have you been running Pikes Peak for?
Well, first time I came here was 32 years ago.
Wow. And you held the record at Pikes Peak for how long?
Yeah, we held it in '94, we set it, and held it for 13 years.
We're here running it between 9,000 and 14,000 feet. The regular car, with a gasoline engine, that loses up to 30 to 40% of its power by the time it gets to 14,000 feet at the top of the summit. With an EV, you have zero power loss. You have the same power at sea level all the way up to 14,000 feet.
Now, how long do you think it'll be before an electric car like this is holding the record here at Pikes Peak?
Well, one of the things I think we saw from the times last year to this year, the practice times and the qualifying times, these electric cars are quite fast. You know, there is a little bit of a penalty with the mass and the weight of the batteries and all of that. But other than that, the torque that you have available to you is much greater than the unlimited cars have. So, you know, it's got some good things going for it, and it's got a few other things that I'm sure that some of these technologies are going to mature quite quickly, and we've already seen that in the last 12 months.
And there's no shift pedals on there, and no shifter anywhere, so this is just one speed, right? Just one gear?
Yeah, and see, that's what I sort of told everybody yesterday about my poor time. I was stuck in first gear. You know, so.
Well, you can't blame yourself for that one. This is where the juice goes. I guess we'll probably
you fuel it up there with some power, and when the engineers tell you it's got 110%, that's as good as it gets.
All right. You ready? Because I'm going to be climbing in and looking like an idiot, so you might as well get that on camera.
If Tim Stevens crashes at your car here today, I'll be looking for another job tomorrow.
Remember to hold the brake before you can put it in forward. All right? You can see the...
Ready? Here we go. And this is it. Driving Rod Milne's Pikes Peak race car. Quite an experience. There is, of course, no body roll at all. And very little noise, just some wind noise and whine from the transmission.
The car has nearly 600 horsepower and 900 pound-feet of torque. So it's incredibly powerful. The car weighs 2,500 pounds, and in this configuration for Pikes Peak we have a top speed of approximately 140 miles an hour. In its road course specification, the car can do over 170 miles an hour.
Okay, there's plenty of torque, and it's instant. There's just the one gear to deal with. Plenty of G-forces too. This thing makes more downforce than an Indy car, amazingly.
Downforce is critical for Pikes Peak. If you've seen any images of Pikes Peak cars from days gone by, you'll see massive wings on that. And the reason for that is trying to get the cars to stick to the track. The air we talked about earlier that affects the combustion engine, that has the same effect on aerodynamics. If you have 30% less air, you have 30% less downforce. Hence, your wings need to be 30% or more bigger than they are on a conventional sea level altitude racetrack.
Here we go down the front straight. Lots of fun. Oh, nice. Braking for turn one. A little bit quicker this time. Now this is a proper race car. No power assist to anything. You gotta step hard on the carbon brakes. And you gotta keep them up to temperature too. They will very quickly die down and cool down. Ooh, a little spin, a little slide. There we go. Bits of rubber flying off the tire. Oh, and that was it. That was all. How do I shut it up? Yeah, not bad. Not bad at all. Quite a ride. So I just climbed out of the car. I wasn't able to give too many impressions while I was in there because I was a little bit focused on driving, and they told me many times that if I crashed the car, I'd be in a lot of trouble. So I was focused on that while I was in there, but I did want to give some impressions. It's got full carbon brakes on there, which don't work at all when they're cold. Steve Wickham from Toyota was kind enough to warm the car up a little bit for me, but still you got to step real hard on that brake pedal to get anything out of it at all. Downforce was pretty amazing. You can see all the giant wings on there, and through the infield you could pretty much keep your foot down as much as you wanted to because there was a ton of grip, but still a lot of understeer. They'd set the car up to be kind of safe and predictable for the mountain climb, and of course there's a lot of cliffs up there that we don't want Mr. Millen to be flying off of. So that was fine. So I was pushing a little bit through the turns, but really quick acceleration. The torque is unbelievable in that car. Any little twitch of your right foot in that car just gets up and goes, which is pretty exciting to say the least. Well, it's going back on the trailer. As you can see, they're packing up the car. It's going to be shipped over the UK, or it's going to be participating in the Goodwood Hill Climb. Toyota hasn't committed to doing this race next year, but we certainly hope that they do. It's a hell of a car, and that record still stands to be broken. We think that within a few years, these EVs could be the fastest things on the hill. This year, an electric motorcycle was the quickest, so could cars be next? We think so. It was definitely a great experience. Just a couple of laps is obviously not enough to get the full experience of this car, but it is quite an amazing car to drive, I can assure you that. Mr. Rod Millen is obviously a very lucky man. Hopefully someday we'll all have this kind of experience on the street, but until then, maybe next year Toyota will come back, and maybe then we'll actually get to take it up the mountain.